So I think we are now more or less on schedule here, and this is going to be Phil 5.
Mhm.
And sorry about the delay and the failure to notify people and whatever, but it seems like we
Oh,
got
no
that
problem.
under control. Anything else we should be talking about before we launch into beeps?
I wanted to mention that I have to admit for some of the beeps that have been happening over the couple of days, and I think it did happen a couple of times last time, beep goes off, and I'm honestly at a loss for what my inner experience was at the moment right before the beep, especially if I'm engaged in something or I'm a bit busy. Um, yeah, so I have admittedly skipped a few beeps.
Well, I would say going forwards, if that happens, let's not skip the beep. Let's do the best we can and talk about that situation or whatever. And maybe
Okay.
so there's a bunch of possibilities. One is that the beeper system, the beeping logic doesn't work for you. That's quite possible in that situation. Or that there's nothing going on, and the reason that you can't find anything is that there's nothing. And nothing is a totally okay answer to the question of what's in your experience at the moment of the beep.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is let's not chuck this up as a personal Phil failure. Let's
Okay.
let's think of it as a characteristic of this adventure that we're on here, where we've given Phil a beeper. He's wearing it. He's doing the best he can, but maybe that's not good enough, but that's not necessarily Phil's problem. It could be the method. And so I think
Okay.
our task is to try to be sort of straightforwardly honest with each other about what's happening at the moment of these beeps, and if that's problematic, then we should talk about it.
Okay.
Anything else we should be talking about?
My first beep was a minimal involved in not that I can think of.
Okay.
Some signal difficulties. I think I'm ready to move on to the first beep if everyone else is.
I am.
Yep, that works for me.
Okay. So yeah, I was saying that the first beep involved a minimum of experience, so there's not so much to say here. I was sitting on a chair with my feet warming up on top of a portable heater. I happened to be looking at the floor through a hole formed by my bent arm on one side and my leg on the other. At the moment immediately before the beep, I was about to shift my gaze and my mind was blank. I just wrote my mind was blank. The only content I can vaguely recall was that I was appreciating the deep green color of the pants I was wearing that I particularly like.
So I heard sort of two possibilities for what was in your experience. One was the hole that was made by your arm and pants, I guess. Is that what the hole was made by? And the other is the color of the pants.
Yeah.
Are those both in your experience?
I would say that yes.
Equally?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so this would, and then is there anything else in your experience other than that?
You just have a little escape. Okay, hold on.
Shaming Daddy.
No. Okay, just let me reposition the camera here.
Zoom presents some challenges. Can't blame
Sorry.
Zoom.
I lost track of where we were. I was saying, you were asking if one experience was dominant over the other, and I think I was saying that it was about even.
Right. And so it seems like what's in your experience is two separable but parallel sensory kinds of things. One is I'm seeing this hole, which is not really a hole, but it appears to be a hole made by two different geometries. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing the green of the corduroy pants, did you say that you were wearing?
No, they're not corduroy, but they're green.
Okay.
Yeah.
Green. And so you said about the green, I think that you were appreciating the greenness.
The deep green. Yeah. Yeah.
So for whatever reason, it seems like you're drawn to the greenness. Is that the?
I don't feel like I was particularly drawn to it. I just happened to be looking in that direction, and it was in my view, and the pants are relatively new, and I like them.
So the distinction that I'm trying to make is it the case that my eyeballs are aimed in this direction, and at the moment of the beep, I have to say something, and so I'm going to say, well, my eyeballs are aimed at my green pants? Or is it that the beep catches me in somehow involved with the greenness of the pants, that the greenness has attracted my attention for whatever reason, and that gets
I would
caught?
say more the former. They just happened to occur at that moment that in part of my field of view were these pants, and I wasn't consciously appreciating the greenness of them, but somehow I feel that in my experience there was some kind of appreciation floating around the level of consciousness.
Okay. So I don't want to be making too much of the appreciation as if that has to be some kind of a separable deal, because that's not the point that I'm trying to make. What I'm trying to tease apart here is whether the greenness somehow stands out for you, different from, say, the fabric or the shape or whatever
Yes, different, separate from the fabric or the shape or any other aspect of the pants. The greenness stands out. Yes.
Okay. And is that true of the whole that is formed as well? That is, the whole is standing out. Actually, the whole doesn't exist in the physical world. The whole exists in Phil's perception of this thing and that thing.
No, just like if I go like this, there's a hole right here. It was. Right. I just happened to be looking through that hole at the floor, noticing that at the moment prior to the beep, that's where my gaze happened to be directed. So it wasn't there. There was minimal active aspect to that moment.
These are the hard distinctions to pull apart. But so the question that I'm trying to understand for myself here is it the case that my eyes are looking in this direction, and when I have to describe to these guys, I'm saying, well, there was sort of a hole made of my arm and my leg, or whatever it was.
I think it's fair to say that I was conscious of a gap that I was looking through.
So you sort of broke up in that. You were conscious.
There's a signal. I was consciously noticing this gap that I was looking through.
Okay. And that, to my ear, makes it seem sort of like the green of the pants. That's could have.
Okay.
It's more than I was just looking in this direction and there was a leg and an arm and that made a hole. But I am somehow seeing the hole rather than seeing the arm or the leg or whatever. Like I'm seeing the green of the pants.
Meanwhile, I'm seeing the green of the pants. Yeah.
Right.
If anything, it was the green of the pants that stood out a little bit more than this hole.
Okay. So those are common kinds of things that we call sensory awareness, and sometimes it seems like sensory awareness is. Some people say, well, that doesn't count. People seem to say, well, that's why would these guys be interested in the fact that I was seeing the greenness of the pants? But if that's what is in experience, then we call that sensory awareness. We're interested in some sensory aspect.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than my eyes are aimed at it. It's that I am in some way involved with the green.
Mhm.
My neuro apparatus has decided to be interested in the green for whatever reason.
Yeah. Oh. Am I coming through okay?
Yep, now. We still have some challenges there. So I'm good about beep number 1, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions about beep 1?
No, I'm good.
Beep number 2.
Okay, beep number 2. I was riding my bike past a car that was backed into a driveway. I looked at the front of the car and was struck by the lack of any sign of its make. With words, and this is difficult to describe, I innerly said to myself, it isn't anything, such that all 3 words seem to overlap as if to be simultaneous. And by it isn't anything, I was meaning that it's no simultaneous. It also had a quality that felt equal parts passive, as if I was just realizing it had no make and hearing myself say, it isn't anything, and actually saying it as if I was making it. At the same time, I was perceiving 2 large auxiliary lights mounted on the front of the car. Not something I see often in Canada or North America, but something common here in Scandinavia. The experiences were about 60-40 between the it isn't anything and the seeing the lights. And that's what I have.
Okay, Phil, if you don't mind, actually, you broke up in the middle of talking about, you had mentioned like the 3 words, it isn't anything, were overlapping, and then we kind of lost the big chunk there. And it picked back up after talking about it had a quality of equal parts passive and hearing. So if you could go back a little bit and tell us more about the after the overlap, anything more to say about the words?
Yeah. I innerly said to myself, okay, I said it also had a quality that felt equal parts passive, as if I was just realizing the car had no make, and hearing myself say, it isn't anything. Wait. Okay, I have to read this with the right intonation so that it makes sense. It also had a quality that felt equal parts passive, as if I was just realizing it had no make and hearing myself say, it isn't anything, and actually saying it as if I was making the exclamation to an imaginary person. So I hope it's a little more clear.
Yeah, I got that. And so let's start with the 60% here, that it isn't anything. So those exact words present, right? Quote, it isn't anything. Unquote.
Yeah.
And I took you to be saying this is both a hearing sort of a thing, like hearing your voice played back to you, as well as a producing of the words. I'm both hearing and speaking these words.
Yeah, it's really difficult to describe. It was somewhere in between being active and passive. It's kind of like those words just came to me, but then it was also like I said them even with the intonation that I was making the exclamation to someone that might have been there.
And is that quality of passive and active in the the intonation of the words, or the intention to speak it, or
the aspect is there in the intonation of the words, because it was like I was with someone and I had said, "Hey, look at this car." Well, I wouldn't have chosen those words because the person wouldn't have known what I was talking about. But it was like I was saying, it isn't anything. Like it has no, it has no make, like no regular make. It's not a Ford. It's not a Mercedes. It's like kind of like as if to say, what the hell is this?
Mm-hmm. So it is sort of like there's like an exclamation point into that, right? Like it isn't anything. And I'm sorry, and that was in
a question mark and an exclamation mark.
Gotcha. And I had lost this in the static, but you had said that like it isn't anything is in the hearing of it or the speaking of it or both or
in the hearing it was like I heard it and it was like I spoke it.
Okay. So I'm taking you to be saying the sort of like this is a sort of incredulous saying and hearing of sort of like, again, of context of surprise, like it isn't anything.
Yeah.
But again, and also one quality of this is that these words are somehow all simultaneously present, right? In reality, I'm saying this one after another, but at the moment of the beep, sort of all three of those words were directly apprehended.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that to say, and this is maybe a hard question, but were those words well, when you say when those words were heard, was it that the words were sort of just like that, like it isn't anything, but it was just like that heard where I'm hearing these three words separated, or is it sort of like it isn't anything as if I were to combine those words in a recording and play it all back so they're all present at a single second?
It's a very, very valid question, but I can't explain it other than to say the words overlapped each other so greatly to the point that they seemed simultaneous, and it was it was like I heard myself. Maybe that's a new aspect that I hadn't described before. It was like I heard myself saying them, but it was like I was also actively making the exclamation.
Okay. So there actually is something overlappy about the words that you heard.
Yeah, to the point where when I wrote this, I thought they were simultaneous.
So there's been a challenge of the audio, and so I want to make sure that I understand. So does it seem that these three words are coming out at the same time, as if we had taken a recording of it and the recording of isn't and the recording of anything and overlapped them and played them back simultaneously?
Yeah, more or less. I sort of get this visual where each of the words is on a transparency, and they're all aligned.
And I take it that that's an explanatory metaphor that you're applying now. You didn't see that transparency at the moment of the beat, but now you're, as a way to try to explain what's happening with it.
That's right, yeah.
So this is and you seem confident about this, that even though this is sort of a strange or weird or whatever kind of thing that you wouldn't experience in the real world, it seemed like this was the case, that these words were somehow simultaneously appearing in your...
Yeah, I can replay it in my mind right now.
You can or you cannot?
I can, almost.
Okay.
And Phil, like I think the question Dr. Hobart was asking, and I tried to ask at first, it's not that these words are just quickly spoken. For example, right? Again, in the real world, I couldn't say three words simultaneously, but it would sound something like it isn't anything, right? Or something really quick. It's not that. I take you saying it's not that there's something that's actually, it's more than that.
It's more than that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the words that anyone wants to ask? Or? Okay, so I also want to go on to Phil about the the other part of this experience. I took you to be saying there is something about auxiliary lights present.
Yeah.
Correct. And how is that present to you?
Yeah, it's I find it difficult to think of any other way to describe it as beyond saying it was a simultaneous visual experience. I wasn't well, I guess I was drawn to the lights because they're not something I'm so used to seeing. And I guess for lack of a better way to put it, they just attracted the direction of my gaze.
So so maybe try this on. I'm looking at the car has auxiliary lights, and at the moment of the beat, I'm drawn to seeing
I mean,
auxiliary lights.
in the moment that came immediately prior, I had been looking at the front of the car just because I guess I just noticed that there was no sign of any make, and I had been looking a little bit more closely at the front of the car, and then I had this "it isn't anything," and while the "it isn't anything" happened, I was looking at these auxiliary lights,
and not necessarily drawn to like the color or the material or anything like that. Right? Just looking at the lights.
I was just looking at the lights. Yeah.
Then I think I'm good on that. Anyone else? Any questions?
I'm good.
Okay.
Number 3.
Yeah. I was using my computer and had just typed a message in Messenger on Facebook. Before sending it, I wanted to include a laughing emoji and hovered the cursor over the emoji icon for a moment before clicking on it. At the moment right before the beep, the words "choose an emoji" appeared, and I read them. They appeared on the screen. I viewed the words all at once, and I innerly heard myself say slowly, "Choose an emoji."
And by slowly, do you mean slowly by contrast to the previous beep, or slowly by Phil's usual speed of speaking?
Slowly by Phil's usual mode of speaking. It was early, well, not
No excuses.
relatively early in the morning, and I didn't have so much coffee, and those words appeared, and just as a sort of automatic reaction, no, I don't know, am I coming in clear enough?
You broke up, but now you are.
Okay, yeah, I moved the cursor over the icon, and those words came up, and sort of more or less as a reaction, I automatically started to read them. The words came up, I saw "choose an emoji," and next thing would have been like, well, okay.
And did you I believe you said that you heard your voice say this? So was this I heard my voice say this, or is this what I said it?
I heard my voice say it.
And is that distinction as clear as if you had heard a recording of your voice say it? Or heard me say it in your...
That's a good way to put it. I would say it was quite like hearing a recording of my voice saying it.
More like hearing a recording of my voice than like saying.
More like hearing a recording of my voice than like actually saying it, yeah.
Okay. So I think I'm good as far as this. So the experience, what I've got basically is I'm looking at I'm in the process of sending a message or whatever, and I'm hovering over an emoji, and that's sort of the context. And the experience is I'm seeing the emoji and hearing my voice say, I'm seeing the emoji, I'm seeing the sign say, choose an emoji, and I'm hearing my voice say slowly, choose an emoji.
Yeah.
And I think I'm good.
Yep, me as well.
Okay. Beep 4.
Beep 4.
I was walking with Max, the new puppy, and I was quite pleased because we made it as far as the small lake near our place. And I was walking. Okay, this one's interesting, I think. I was walking, looking down at the ground just ahead of me. I could see, I was innerly hearing an instrumental part of a song I like very much called Come In Alone. The enjoyable, relatively high-pitched swirling sounds in the melody repeated. I have a very visual association with the songs from this album, and I began to passively imagine flashing shards of glowing shades of pink appearing. They didn't appear in the external world, and somehow they were just there, similar to what you see when you shut your eyes after looking at something bright like a fire or the sun. Not that I spend much time looking at the sun, but you know what I mean.
So just to make sure, because there are some audio issues, Phil, when you were saying earlier, but you're walking, the context of this is you're walking with Max, and you were also hearing, you were like, were you listening to Come In Alone like on earphones, or is this something that's playing in your head?
It was something playing in my head.
Okay. But so you hear the instrumental part of Come In Alone in your head, and right at the moment of the beep, it's seeing these flashing, glowing pink. Is that correct? Okay. And so at the moment of the beep, are your eyes open?
Yep.
Okay. But these flashing, glowing pink, and what are, is there something more to be said about that? Like, is there a shape to this, or
not a shape that I could describe, but just sort of patches that maybe fill up, I would say, between 5 and 10% of my visual field.
And I take you to be saying this is a visual thing, right? Like somehow I'm apprehending this as visual, as opposed to this pink is something I associate with the song, and I kind of know the song is pink, but
yeah.
Okay. And at the moment of the beep, is there a location to those like patches or the pink, like around the borders or kind of in the center, or does that question not make sense?
It was the only way I can describe them as somehow more peripheral than central. On the left side for some reason.
Okay.
On my left side.
Okay. And you said that it's sort of like floaters, right? Like when you close your eyes, is that, or I'm sorry, not floaters, but, like the afterglow, I guess, right, of looking at a bright light?
Yeah.
Does that mean that these are, or I'm trying to figure out, I guess, is for this particular glowing pink, is that something that you see and I'm seeing it in my imagination sort of, and I'm sort of superimposing this, or how is that present?
Yeah, I would say that there is an aspect to it that involves a superimposition on the real world.
I'm not seeing it out onto the right, like whatever I'm looking at the ground or the trees or whatever, but I know this pink is sort of.
There was like a minimal almost non-existent. What did I write about the spatial aspect of this? Yeah, in terms of geometry associated with the real world, there was a minimally spatial aspect. There was no depth. There was no depth to these shards of pink.
Sort of these flat patches or blobs or.
Yeah.
So I understand you to be saying that your system, your neurological system is making up these shards of pink. But the question that Cody was asking a little bit ago that I didn't hear the answer to, I think, was, does it, as far as your experience is concerned, does it seem like these pink patches are out there in the real world? That I'm seeing exterior pink?
No.
So I recognize myself to be creating these things. This is more or less like a visual image, and I'm seeing a visual image at the same time as I'm seeing the external world.
Yeah. The cover of the album that this song comes from is just filled with like shades of pink and purple and red, and I've seen videos for some of the songs from this album, and they also involve like swirling pink, like, so it just kind of, it's a natural association, maybe not even just for me, but for other people as well. I might think.
And for you, at the moment of this beep, is it just the pink color rather than the pink and the purple and the other colors?
That's hard to answer. It's just like my memory of it now is just the pink color. But what I wrote down was I wrote glowing shades of pink. So maybe
Okay.
it was, yeah.
So it's possible that we've muddied the water beyond recognition in that regard.
Maybe. And just for just out of curiosity, I went, and when I came home, I listened to the song, and the way that I had it in my head was a little bit different from what it actually sounds like. And what was playing in my head was a part of it. It was as if you could put up that certain part of it to accentuate it over the other instrumentation in the song. So it was kind of biased towards these swirling noises that, yeah, I'm at kind of a loss to describe.
And does that mean that at the moment of the beep, it seems like I'm hearing this song the way it actually is, but when I got home and checked it out, I found, well, that wasn't really the case. It was, I've distorted or biased or.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to clarify, Phil, that hearing was present at the moment of the beat with the shades of pink?
Yep.
Okay.
The moment prior to the beat. Yep. Or yeah, sure, the moment of the beat.
The moment just before the beat went off, right? I'm innerly hearing that instrumental part of "Come In Alone" and the seeing the shades of pink.
Yep.
Okay. And just in terms of what you're hearing, you said at the beginning it's like a brief part of the chorus. Is that correct?
No, not a part of the chorus. Just sort of this melody that plays more or less throughout the song.
Okay. Got it.
And is it an instrument in the original real song? Is it an instrumental portion, or have you extracted out the voices?
No, it's an instrumental. Yeah.
Okay. And I think I'm good.
I'm good too.
Number
Okay.
5. Number 5.
Here's okay. Number 5. Yeah, I think I find this one interesting as well. I was inside on my sofa, I would normally say couch, with my computer, and it was virtually silent during a gap between typing. Coming from the airport about 2.5 miles away, I had heard faintly what sounded like 2 instances of jet engines starting up. They make a ghostly howling noise that travels for kilometers between the surrounding mountains. Each sound lasts a few seconds. The beep occurred at around the end of a 3rd instance of the sound. While listening to the sound, I innerly heard myself say, inside, 3rd, 3. Inside alluded to the fact that I could hear the sounds from inside, which is rare. 3rd referred appropriately to it being the 3rd instance of the sound. 3 referenced my surprise at actually hearing the sound 3 times consecutively, as most often it's heard once or twice. At the same time, my gaze was directed at our portable heater, the surrounding floor, and part of the bookshelves we have that are filled with books. I was not simultaneously directing attention visually beyond, I'd say, 5%.
So that last part is that 5% of me, I'm seeing what my eyes are aimed at, which is the bookshelf. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, the portable heater, the bookshelf, and I believe part of the floor.
So is my experience at the moment of the beep, the other 95%, I guess, is that all about this speaking to myself inside 3rd, 3? Or am I still hearing the 3rd?
There's some aspect, I have to remember it now because I didn't write it down. As I remember it now, I was still hearing the sound.
Okay. And
Well, yes, I did. I wrote while listening to the sound. I innerly heard myself say those words.
and we've been making this distinction between hearing and speaking it. So is this clearly experientially a hearing of my voice rather than a speaking of those words? Or maybe we can't make that.
Yeah. I would say more on the side of hearing my voice say those words. Yeah.
And by more on the side, that means
More on the passive side, more instead of me instead of me actually speaking those words. Yeah.
okay. And by more on that side, you mean maybe there's still some of me speaking them? So we understand that clearly your bag of bones is making up these words. There's no question about that. The question is what you experience. And the experience could be, well, I was saying to myself, inside 3rd, 3, or it could be, I heard Bill's voice say, inside 3rd, 3, or somewhere in between. Or
I have to go with somewhere in between.
okay.
It's my best recollection.
So it's not precisely a hearing and not precisely a speaking, or that's a distinction that doesn't work for you for whatever reason.
I don't know if it's a distinction that doesn't work for me, but it's somehow in between,
Okay.
just like in the other instance.
So there are 3 words, and are these sequential one after another, inside 3rd, 3?
Yeah, the way I remember it, and I didn't write anything about simultaneity or overlapping. They were sequential.
Okay. And these are the condensation. So inside has a specific meaning that I'm hearing these from inside my house rather than I only usually hear them outside.
Yeah.
And they mean that. The word inside conveys that to you.
Yeah.
Okay. And 3rd conveys that it's the 3rd instance of this jet sound.
Yeah.
And then is it the number 3 or does it make any difference whether this is the numeral 3 or THREE? far as what you're saying, hearing?
Oh, that's a good question. So can you rephrase that?
Well, sometimes people will, when they use numbers, they say, well, this is clearly a numeral that I am somehow articulating. And sometimes people will say, well, it's clearly the word 3 that I'm articulating. And some people will say, well, it doesn't really matter. I'm hearing the word, I'm hearing 3, and it could be the number, could be the numeral, could be the lettered words.
I would say that it was more the numeral because I was surprised that I heard 3 of them. So it was kind of like 3 with an exclamation mark. 3.
Okay. Then I think I'm good. Anybody else?
I think I am good as well.
Okay.
Number 6.
Number 6. All right. I was at my desk and the image on my monitor had gone out for a moment. I had just noticed the HDMI cable connecting my laptop and the monitor was positioned badly. A couple of inches from the computer connection port, I saw the cable was propped up on one of the feet of the monitor support stand. At the very moment before the beep, I realized the stress on the connection and the need to move the cable immediately. I felt like the noticing of the cable on the monitor foot came first, but overlapped with the realization of the need to move it. And there were no words involved.
So this is almost like a transition between seeing the computer stand and the cable and then needing to move the cable.
Yeah.
And both of those simultaneously present at the moment of the beep.
Well, this is a current theme today. I feel like there was some overlap with seeing
Right.
that it was positioned badly and realizing that I need to move it or wanting to move it.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. The beep kind of caught you right in that overlap is what I keep saying, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Both of those sort of equally present, or is there one sort of more?
No, I would say both of them equally present.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start with the seeing. So is there anything more to say about this other than just, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing the cables positioned badly?
I can't think of anything.
Unlike let's see, in the first 2 beeps of today, right? Like there's some aspect where I'm looking kind of at like the greenness is attracting me, or I'm noticing that, or I'm noticing the auxiliary lights, right? There's nothing necessarily like that here in this beep, is what I keep saying.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the moving the cable, how is that present to you?
As an urge to just push the laptop a bit so that it moves away from having the cable go up on the foot of the monitor.
Okay. And urge is a good word for that, right? Like it's this is just like again like sort of a realized, like I'm seeing this and I have to fix this.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So I've heard, or I could imagine 2 different interpretations of this, and maybe what I'd like to do is double back. The first time when you described this aspect, I think you used the word immediately. I should move this immediately. Is that part of the? is the immediatelyness part of this experience?
Yes. Yep.
And then I heard the word you say, I realized that I had to do it, and I had the urge to do it. And realized makes it seem like sort of a mental thing, and urge makes it seem like a physical move the laptop thing. Does this seem like a mental or physical, or doesn't that, am I on the wrong track?
I don't know.
So the question is there a distinction to be made between the analytical, cognitive, I can see this, and something needs to be happening as a mental realization, or is this I should physically embody the?
I would say it's the early beginnings of a motor sequence to get that laptop moved so that this thing isn't badly positioned anymore. Like to reach out with my arm.
So this is the beginning of a motor movement, basically.
Yeah.
And so urge is a better word than realize, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anything else present, Phil?
No. Nope.
All right, then I think I'm good on this beat.
And I think so too, but let me make sure that I understand it. So what I've got from this is that I'm seeing the position of the cable, and I am in the very beginning of adjusting my body so that I can adjust the cable, something like that. I'm moving towards the.
Yeah, I would say potentially more accurate than seeing the cable positioned badly is realizing that this isn't right and I need to fix it. But
so there is some analysis that's going on. How much of that is directly in your experience is maybe sort of hard to tell, but it's not just seeing a cable. It is seeing a cable and recognizing that it's in a bad place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm good.
Yeah, me too.
So that's 6.
Okay. So how many times are there usually where we talk about 6 beeps? How many meetings?
How many sampling days?
How many sampling
rounds of sampling and interviewing?
I would say how many. I think I want to ask how many interviewing days there are, because sampling can occur on 2 days before each interview.
Oh, fair enough. So I would say that depends greatly on what we're trying to do. I would say as a general rule, maybe at least 4, and then after that, it depends on our aim. So what I would say is that whenever we are ready in this particular saying, we could say that's enough. So we could say we've just had our fifth day. We could say 5 is enough, or we could say we should do this again, or we should do this several more times, or whatever. So I'm open to that. So if you think this is enough, I'm happy to say this is enough. These beeps are interesting. We're trying to sort out as best we can.
My question was purely out of curiosity, and I wasn't thinking that maybe this is enough or anything like that. But now that I don't think this is enough.
All right, then good. Let's keep on going.
Maybe to fill to your context, we've done sampling with folks, 10, 12, 15 times.
Or more.
I wouldn't say that's necessarily, or more. I wouldn't say that's necessarily typical, but to what Dr. Holbert was saying, we very rarely sort of set out in a prescriptive way, like, we are ending this at 4 and there's no, and that is it. But I mean, again, sometimes that happens, but that's not necessarily the normal operation.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the next meeting then.
And we've had quite a bit of breakup issues here. Is like I think you're frozen on my screen right now, Phil.
Mhm.
Outside. Is that an internet issue on your end?
It probably is. It probably is. I will try to. I'll try to come up with a solution.
Okay, that'd be great. It's scary because you don't know what you don't know. When in this kind of a situation, if somebody says something and you don't hear it, then you don't know what you didn't hear. And
Yeah.
it may